just let us know. So we'll start off the meeting by just doing a quick roll call to see who actually made it out. We're still trying to get everybody's names filled out in council transition, from outgoing and incoming. So please help us with that. Somebody put away, let us know. So let's just start with the roll call then. Yeah, we can start with myself and we can go around this way. Just introduce yourself and your position, just say if you're proxying or not. And yeah, just have your placard ready so people can see which constituency you're representing. So I'll start today. My name is Ram Aziz. I'm the incoming president of the student union. And yeah, I'm excited to work with you all the coming year. I have a little bit of address coming later, so I'll save it for that. Okay.
Hi everyone, I'm Mahbubur Rahman.
Hey Rob, are you live?
Go ahead, Rob. Hello everyone, I'm Mahbubur Rahman. I'm the Vice President of Finance and Operations. We had a good transition, so we're good to go, and I'm excited starting a new fresh year.
I'm Julian, and I'm proxying for Caitlin Lowe as the DASH representative tonight. So yeah, I'll just be here for the one night, I guess.
My name is Rebecca Howarth, and I'm the incoming Board of Governors student rep.
I'm Laura. I'm the current South House rep.
I'm Aaron. I'm not on the DSU at all anymore, but I'm proxying for JD, who is the BOG rep, and he's at a conference in Ottawa.
I'm Emily. I'm the medicine rep.
Hi, my name is Ding. I'm the international rep.
I'm Giovanna. I'm also the international rep.
Folks, I'm Jomel, Section Campus Director. Really excited for this new year and looking forward to work with all the executives.
Hi everyone, this is Shailendra. I'm proxying for Andrew, who's the senator rep from DSU.
Hello, I'm Daniel, and I'm the architecture and planning rep for the summer at least.
Hi, I'm Hannah. I'm the undergraduate engineering rep. I'm Sydney. I am the Dalhousie engineering rep.
I'm Vishwa Patel, incoming Vice President External Advocacy for DAX, Dalhousie Association of Graduate Students.
Hi, I'm Amelia. I'm the DSS rep.
I'm Emma. I'm proxying for Brogan, who's the DSS rep.
Hi, I'm Allie. I am one of the Senate reps on council.
I am He-Man. I'm not the BOG rep. I'm the Commerce Society rep.
I'm Jen. I'm the new Vice President Internal.
I'm Josie, and I'm Secretary today.
My name's Jacqueline, and I'm the new Vice President Academic and External.
All right. Thanks for that. Yeah, started with my so yeah, let's move on to the acceptance of the agenda then. So the way it's working, we haven't appointed it. So is this out of action? Okay. Is this out of action for the rest of the meeting? Okay. We got excited because we got an extra mic because of last year, but we are procuring more. So thanks, man. Appreciate it. I understand that. So according to our constitution, I should be chairing the meeting until a new chair is appointed. So please bear with me. I'm not a professional here at this job. But we are moving into the acceptance of the agenda. I understand there were some additions to be made, so people can move them now. Any amendments to the agenda, or would someone like to motion to accept it as it is? Yes, Ms. Nowalski has an amendment.
I just want to make an amendment. Sorry, Danny, if you don't mind going down a bit to the decision items. Just to move the decision item for the budget committee above appointments, just because we're going to be making the appointment to this committee if it goes through under appointments, and so we should decide if it's going to be a committee first.
Should I make an amendment to the agenda for that one thing we were? Okay, great.
Yes.
Sorry. I have an amendment to the agenda. Hey,
So there's been talk about, because we have the appointment of the DSU Council Chair coming up, I have heard that there is somebody who wants to run for this spot, who wants to be nominated, who is not a DAL student. So I'm going to try to like present this in a non-partisan way, but I think it's fair that it be discussed at council, that we have the motion to if someone is elected as chair, they be given honorary membership of the union so that they're able to fill that role. The reason I think we should have this on the agenda is just because I think it's a decision to be made by council, whether we want to do that, not a decision to be made behind closed doors. Yeah, so if we add it to the agenda, it's just we will be deciding whether we will let whoever is elected in as chair, if they are not a student currently, we will give them honorary membership. We will be making that decision. If it is added to the agenda, we won't be deciding on it by adding it to the agenda. Does that make sense to everybody? Does anybody have any questions? Okay, great. That is my proposed amendment. I have a full motion here, but for now, for the purpose of the agenda, I will just give you the be it resolved that clause, and that is be it resolved that the DSU Council grant honorary membership to any successful candidate for the position of council chair who is not already a member. So I'll bring this motion up to you.
Perfect. All right. Those amendments have been proposed for the agenda. So motion to accept the amendments to the agenda. Would anybody like to put forward that motion? Motion by Ali, seconded by Laura. Sure. And yeah, so moving into voting now. All in favor of approving the amendments to the agenda? Okay. Any opposition? Any abstentions? All right, excellent. So the agenda has been amended according to 2/3 majority. And yeah, we can move into the item for decision. Where did you put it, Danny? Oh, you put it after the presentations? Okay, perfect. So let's start with the presentations then. It's a very brief, I guess, next hour that we have, in the sense that we have a presentation from our legal aid, Tim Hill. Mr. Tim Hill is joining us tonight. Just to speak to us on fiduciary responsibility, but then we also have a little primer on Robert's rules that's going to be provided as well. I'd just like to take this opportunity to really introduce myself to a lot of folks and put myself out there, because we really want council this year to be a place for debate. We want it to be a place for healthy discussion, and a collaboration between the executives and council members is key for that. We're here to support you, and we expect that if there's anything you need from us, please do approach us about it. Let's try to keep our doors open for communication wise. We do have a small orientation plan today. That's what the whole conversation about Tim, sorry, the whole presentation with Tim and the Robert's Rules one is about. But we have a larger one in September, so we can accommodate the councillors who might be away for proxy, for the summer and whatnot. So there are a few changes we're trying to make to council this year to make it more accommodating, not only just for the public, but also for our agricultural rep, so they can actually participate regularly in our meetings. So there's a lot of changes we're trying to make, like the addition of a new wireless, microphone, little things to make our meetings run smoother, maybe a new video conferencing software or whatnot. So we'll try to keep you in tune with what's happening as it comes. But again, in my opinion, council should be knowledgeable of all the financial, legal, operational responses to the union, and as well as keeping those in mind when making potentially political decisions as well. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say in my welcome address. Just wanted to welcome you all to council and for an exciting new year. And because I really want to work closely with people who, especially for those who feel that council may not have been the most enthralling experience in the past. And with that, I'd like to please pass off the mic to Mr. Tim Hill. From Boyne Clark. He's our legal aid, and he's just going to say a few words about fiduciary responsibility. Thank God, I was about to say. Yeah, do we have a CD drive? Thanks.
When I was president of the student union here,
Oh, is it not on?
when I was a president of the student union here, computers were not actually invented, so it's true. I was, I think, the first lawyer in town to have a 64K computer on my desk. Okay.
You want me to click for you?
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind. I just want to tell you that I don't usually dress like this. I dressed like this to impress somebody today, and it wasn't you. But usually I wear jeans to the office if I get away with it. So I'm going to be quite quick, and I've been asked to do this a few times over the years because I've been around a long time, as you can see by the lack of hair and the color of it. And the idea is to give you just a basic idea of the obligations you may have as a director, is what you are, of this organization. As I go through this, because I'll go through it fairly quick, if you have a question, stick your hand up or shout out, and I'll try and answer, and it can be any kind of question you like. Do you want to move it on to? Okay. So all the case law talks about directors. You are directors. Being a member of DSU Council makes you a director. So you can go on again if you like. And is anybody here on the board of operations? I guess a couple, three or four must be. Yeah, yeah. So you're directors of that or on there as well. You just keep going. And again. Okay. So the basic duty, the fundamental duty, is to act in the best interest of your organization. Govern the organization within the limits of the law and what we call the constatin documents. And for here, the constatin documents, there's actually a special act of the legislature which incorporated Dalhousie Student Union. And you have your bylaws and so on, and your constitution. Those are your constatin documents. So if you're in doubt, look there and see what you should or shouldn't be doing. Want to go next? Basic duties: diligence, loyalty, and obedience. And most of you will forget number 3, I'm sure, but you want to go through and we'll deal with the next one? Yeah. Okay, diligence. What that means to a degree is that the decisions you make, you should make the decisions as if you were making them for yourself. Is this something that I think is right? In good faith, and try not to be unreasonable, at least not more than once each council meeting. Do you want to go to the next one? So that is the same level of care and attention that a reasonable person with similar ability, skill, or experience would exercise. So, for example, if you get asked a legal question, you don't need to try and answer a legal question because you would not be expected to know the answer. If you're asked some question about, maybe asked a question about the Constitution, you're not expected to answer because you may not be qualified to do so. So just use your own innate abilities. Next one. Proceeding with caution. Make sure you're informed. You're going to see it this year. You see it every year, but there are 3 people in this room. I'm not going to point to them because I don't know who they are, but there are 3 people in this room that will just constantly spout nonsense. It's going to happen because it's the law of probabilities. It happens every year. They won't be informed, but they'll have a lot to say in any event. Say that aside. Do you want to go to the next one? Loyalty. This is the one that causes the most problem because you're supposed to be loyal to the organization and not use your position to advance your private interests. But many of you, and indeed most of you, are here to represent some, in quotations, constituency in the university. And you're here to advance the interests of that constituency. That's what democracy is all about, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. The issue becomes when you try to advance your private interest. In other words, get the council to vote on a contract with a company that happens to be owned by your mother or your father. Well, you wouldn't be wanting to be involved there because that would be advancing your private interest or your family interest. But if you were to advocate on behalf of the Law Student Society on a particular thing, because you're the law student rep doesn't mean you have to step outside because it's going to affect that society, because that's not a personal interest. Want to move on? There may be times, having said that, where the interests of the two organizations are opposed. There may be a contractual issue involving the Law Student Society and DSU where they have a contract between them for something. That can become a conflict, and if you feel that it's a conflict and you'll know if it is, then just say, I'm going to step out the room for the vote. Step out. Next one. This comes up every year. There are going to be issues in terms of employees. Generally speaking, nowadays it doesn't get this far because the last how many years, what is it, 6, 7 years since you've had the border operations or whatever, those things are dealt with there more now. It used to all come to council. It used to be right dog and pony show, but there will be things that come here that are confidential and that it will harm the organization financially or in some other way if you disclose it, and you have a duty to maintain that confidentiality. Collective decisions. Again, there'll be decisions that are made that you don't agree with, but once the decisions are made, then you do have an obligation, perhaps not to actively go out and support them, but certainly not to try and undermine the decision that the organization you're a director of has made. Go on, next one. Obedience. Act within the rules. There is in this room, I was in the military once years ago, and we used to have what were called barrack house lawyers. In other words, there's a barrack house lawyer in here, somebody who's going to, whenever they think it'll be of advantage, they'll get that constitution out and they'll go through it page by page till they find some words they can take out of context which will support their decision. That's not what you're supposed to do. A lot of what goes on here is all about the spirit of the student union and what it's all about. But in any event, you shouldn't be doing that. The next one. External rules, labor statutes, tax statutes, and human rights statutes. You may or may not know, but I'll tell you, that each of you could be potentially liable for HST that Dal Student Union doesn't pay to the government. Could be a lot of money. Because as directors of an organization, you're liable for that. So you want to be having the Board of Operations check that every month that it's paid and so on. You want to make sure that employees here observe the labor statutes, the human rights statutes, and so on. Those are obligations that you have as a director of the organization. Go ahead. Does everybody know what a tort is? It's a civil wrong. It's not the thing with the cherries on top. So those are usually it's number 2 there, where contracts breached or violated, there may be some liability. Do you want to go on? The statutory liability I just talked about in the Excise Tax Act, if a corporation doesn't pay HST, then the directors are personally liable for that HST. Next one. Labor codes. If somebody's wrongfully dismissed and the corporation doesn't pay them what they're entitled to under some labor codes, Canada Labor Code and under the Nova Scotia code, then a director may be liable for the wages. Next one. Where there's a breach of contract, a director might, it's not usual, but it's possible a director could become personally liable if they're the person behind the machinations to breach it. Go on the next one. Torts. Vicarious liability. some council members will be employees of the student union as well, presumably working the desk and things like that. That's still allowed, isn't it? No, not allowed anymore? All right. That's fairly new then, the last 2 or 3 years maybe. Yeah. All right. But in any event, if you have an employee down there, if I go in down the stairs now and one of your employees trips me up and I break my back or whatever, then the organization is going to be vicariously liable. You would not be, but the organization would be. But if you knew that person was in the habit of standing on the stairs and tripping people as they went down and you didn't supervise that person, you might be personally liable. Want to keep going? You'll be glad to know that you are indemnified. This organization does have officers and directors liability insurance. So as long as you act reasonably and you act within all of those things we've talked about, then if you are sued by anybody, you're entitled to have the student union both provide you with a lawyer for defense, I recommend myself, and to pay for it. But if you've breached the duty to DSU, then DSU is not going to pay for your lawyer in that situation. Want to go on? And I've just said that. You want to keep going? Okay. So you do have a risk management model here. The managers of the student union have developed risk management models over the years, identifying a risk and taking measures to minimize, such as insurance, such as, you have rules for the sub, right? This is what you can and can't do in the sub. That's risk management. Next one. I'm risk management tonight because by spending 15 minutes talking to you about this stuff, we're managing risk. Because at least one of you has learned something they didn't know before I walked through the door, hopefully, or I was completely wasting my time. Clear rules and policies. And I think if DSU has any fault, it has too many clear rules and policies because there isn't very much wiggle room when you get right down to the bottom of it. Maintenance of the facilities and equipment, obvious thing. Screening and supervising staff, and all of those things are actually in place with DSU. Next one, I think we're getting towards the end here. So I've talked about directors and officers liability insurance. Doesn't cover everything. There's a few things that you see up there it doesn't. Want to go to the next one? Okay. So if you want to have a good year, remember the 3 duties we talked about at the beginning. Ensure that you're informed before you make a decision. I know most of you, well, not most of you, some of you won't be, most of you probably will be. If something can be reduced to writing, put it in writing. Look at the, you get a financial report each month still? You do that with, no, it's downstairs, with the other board, okay. So the last 2 won't apply to you. It probably should, but in any event, it apparently doesn't. And the next one. As the president just said, ask questions. Give him a hard time. If you're not, if you're wondering what he's up to, ask him. And if you don't like it, tell him. Get specialized advice when you need it from people like me. Look at the contracts. I mean, I've seen a couple from the last couple of years that whoever, and you can enter into a contract. You don't have to sign a piece of paper to enter into a contract. An email is good enough. Email to one, and all you need is 3 things: offer, acceptance, and consideration. Something moving backwards and forwards between them. And I've seen some doozies coming out of the student union over the years, especially since the advent of email. It's so easy. You think you're having a chat, but you've actually just booked a band, and nobody likes the band, and you're paying like 15 grand or something to bring them from God knows where. I mean, it happens. Go to the next one. 40% of Canadians hold some position on a volunteer board. I've run the rink at St. Margaret's Centre out in Tantallon for 17 years. I'm still the chairman of the board there after 17 years. I mean, the number of lawsuits, the chance that you get into trouble is minute. I think that's it, isn't it? I'm open to questions. I won't bite. Well, I might. I haven't eaten today. Oh, okay. I'll just very briefly tell you that how it works with me. I've been counsel to the student union for God knows how many years. I'm a former president here, but probably for 20 years I've been counsel. I never get involved in the politics. If you have a political issue, don't call me and ask for advice because I won't give it to you. If it's a legal issue, and that goes for the president and everybody else, I just don't get involved in it because it's stupid. It's not my job. It's a political thing. But I do give legal advice. I have a retainer so that people on committees and so on, they should probably talk to one of the executive first, but if there's a live issue that comes up, you can email me and I will answer. It may take a day or two depending on my schedule, but I'll answer. And for people with societies and so on, the student union retains my firm. We do every Friday during the school year, there's a clinic and you can book a 20-minute appointment and get some advice, and it's free. Advice, the student union pays for it. So it's useful. That's it. Unless nobody wants to ask me a question, I can go and have supper. Great.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks for that, Tim. So I just want to point out that the whole point of that presentation was to emphasize how immense the responsibility is on these positions. I mean, if we don't do our jobs in consulting with our constituents, and if we don't do our job in actually, what's up? Everything okay?
I didn't want to see you wrong.
Oh yeah. We'll see him. Yeah, we'll see him eventually. So if we don't actually do our fair process and actually getting feedback from our constituents, I mean, everything is it defeats the purpose of the system that we have here. This presentation actually pertains to the Board of Operations extremely closely because they make decisions recurrently around contracts and legal obligations. So for them, this was very relevant. I must also emphasize it is relevant to us as well, even though now because of the Board of Operations, the council doesn't make decisions that are minutely about contracts and about and finances and stuff, but we are still responsible. So I just want to emphasize that again. So I realized there was a bit of a flaw in the agenda in the sense that we actually need to appoint our secretary and our council chair as well. I would prefer it before the next presentation because I would prefer that the presentation on Robert's rules be given by the incoming council chair. Yeah. Okay. But Jake has a prepared presentation, so I guess we could. Yeah, we could. Yeah, we can do that. So Jake, yeah, just come on up and do your council introduction to Robert's Rules Primer. Everybody should have received a copy. I passed it around. Let me know if you haven't received a copy of the Robert's Rules of Order Primer. So that's okay. I'll come and get you guys one.
Hi, folks. My name is Jake Eidinger. I was the chair of the King Students Union for 2 years. I'm a member of the National Association of Parliamentarians, the official editors of Robert's Rules of Order, which you may have heard of. And I'm going to give you a little bit of an introduction to parliamentary procedure. Normally, Robert's Rules of Order is sort of the standard, although it's not officially the DSU's manual, but we use a lot of the same tools. So I'll be referring back to that. So, can everyone hear me, by the way? Okay, great. Okay, there we go. And if you have any questions at any time, interrupt me. It's going to be super casual. Okay, so what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about the kinds of procedural rules that we have here at the DSU. We're going to talk about why we have them. We're going to talk about the fundamental principles of parliamentary law, which is just an extension of why we have parliamentary procedure. We're going to talk about some of the essential elements of a council meeting and of a general meeting, like the agenda and motions. We're going to talk about some of the different kinds of motions that you can use to get things done at council. And finally, we'll talk about some special tools you can use to deal with problems that may arise over your tenures. So the types of rules at the DSU. This is in descending order of authority. So obviously the most authoritative is the law, either established by the Government of Canada or Nova Scotia. So as Tim mentioned, the Dalhousie Student Union Act is a special act of the Nova Scotia legislature, which supersedes anything that we as a students' union could do. The Societies Act actually doesn't affect the DSU because it has the special act. So anything that we do that would happen to contravene the DSU Act would be null and void. Right under that, we have the DSU Constitution and bylaws. They're called the Constitution and the bylaws. They're online. I highly recommend you all read them. And they give broad provisions as to how the union should function. So there shall be a council composed of X number of people from these constituencies, so on and so forth. So I highly recommend reading that, but that doesn't tell the council how it should do its work. For that, we get to special rules of order and the parliamentary authority. So the DSU has something called the Union Rules and Procedures Policy, which is right here. It's also online, which are basically parliamentary rules of procedure as to how we should function. These take precedence over anything that may be in Robert's Rules of Order because they're special rules that council has adopted for itself. If there's something that's not in the special rules of order, so if we've gone through law and statute, constitution and bylaws and special rules of order, and we're still looking for an answer, then we can look to a parliamentary authority like Robert's Rules, and if we still can't find an answer, then we can look to custom, which is just how we've done things in the past. So that's the hierarchy of rules. But today I'm just going to talk about special rules of order and parliamentary authority. Great. So why do we have things like parliamentary procedure? To facilitate smooth and efficient conduct of business, to ensure that the decisions that we make at council and at general meetings are fair to everyone and democratic, so that council doesn't turn into a fist fight like the Ukrainian parliament, and also not to impede business. Sometimes it can seem, if you've been at a meeting where the rules have been used improperly, that they're being used to stall or prevent things from getting done. That's actually not why we have rules. It's to make efficient decisions, but decisions that are also fair. And the process only works if there's mutual respect between everyone here and the person who's enforcing the rules, the meeting chair. Like Tim said, there are some people who will only use the rules when it suits their to advance their personal agenda. That's not what the rules are for. And it's important that everyone understands that. Otherwise, it's difficult to work. Right, so some of the things that you shouldn't use rules for: confusing participants, advancing your own agenda, stifling discussion. There are tools that can be used to move on, but it's important that we use them properly so that we make sure that everyone gets a chance to be heard, although the majority at the end of the day gets to have its own way, gets to decide. And hopefully by the end of this presentation, you'll have the basic tools you need to prevent that sort of thing from happening. So when we're talking about parliamentary law or parliamentary procedure, which is how this meeting functions, we're talking about the following rights. The rights of the majority at the end of the day to decide. The DSU, like most organizations in North America and in Europe, use a system of majority vote. That means more than half of the people voting. So at the end of the day, they get to decide. However, the minority also has a right to be heard because council doesn't just make decisions, it deliberates. It's a deliberative assembly, meaning that the way we make the best decisions is by talking about them first, which is why the minority has a right to be heard. Individual members also have rights to speak, to vote, to make motions, to attend without feeling insecure or threatened, and to be comfortable. And it's important. The rules protect all of these groups. And also of absentees, which are often forgotten because they're not here. But for example, a quorum, which is the minimum number of people that need to be here to make decisions, protects the DSU membership from having decisions made by a group of people that is so small that it doesn't represent them. And some motions, for example, if you want to amend the Constitution or a bylaw, require notice to protect the people who don't ordinarily come to meetings, so that they know that that motion is going to come up because it will affect so many people. And we balance all these rights in parliamentary procedure. Okay, now we're going to get down into the practical side of things. Okay, agendas. So we adopted an agenda at the beginning of the meeting. It sets out the order in which specific items, it sets out the order in which we deal with things. It's prepared here by the chair. You can send in items to the chair by email to be added to the agenda. Even though it's prepared by the chair, it can be amended before it is adopted at the beginning of the meeting. We did that. You can propose amendments. And it requires a 2/3 vote to amend before adoption. And it requires unanimous consent, which just means everyone has to agree if we want to change something in the middle. And this ensures that the meeting keeps going and that we don't get stuck switching from one thing to another. But you see that we can switch if everyone agrees that there's a pressing need to. And that's agendas. Okay, motions. A motion is simply a tool to focus discussion on one main issue. Usually it comes in the form of, I move that X, or be it resolved that whatever. And sometimes people add preambles, which are sort of explanatory clauses at the beginning, usually in the form of, whereas I think chocolate is good, be it resolved that we buy chocolate. Something like that, but more serious. Most motions require the support of at least 2 people, the person moving it and a seconder. You second things by putting your hand up or saying second. Once you move a motion, it's been seconded, and the chair has stated the motion, it no longer belongs to you. Now it belongs to council, so you can't take it back. You can clarify small issues of wording with the chair in advance to prevent problems. If you're not sure of the proper wording, you can absolutely check with the chair or with one of the exec. But once it's been moved, seconded, and stated by the chair, it doesn't belong to you. It's now property of the floor, and it can only be amended by the proper procedure with consent of a majority of the members here. And the mover has a right to speak first, and a seconder has the right to speak second. Okay, so that's the main motion. And most motions follow those rules, but there are some exceptions. So this is a simplified order of precedence for motions. If we were considering a main motion and someone made any one of these motions, we would have to switch to that until that one was disposed of. And similarly, if we're considering a motion to postpone, we can't be considering a motion to refer. So if it's higher, it takes precedence over anything below it. And I'll explain what all of these are in a minute. But so main motion is a motion to do something, to take a substantive action, like buying chocolate. Amending is changing a motion. You can insert words. You can subtract words. You can insert, you can delete and insert words. Yes. Okay, that's a great idea. So main motion, be it resolved that we buy chocolate. Motion to amend. I move to strike out chocolate and insert vanilla ice cream. I don't know why we'd all just buy vanilla. Refer. I'll get to that in a minute. I have very specific explanations. But anyways, so this is just a simple order of precedence, and the ones on top take precedence over the ones on the bottom. So now I'll go into the specifics. Right, so refer, commit. Refers the motion to another body for recommendations, and then they would report back, like a committee. And it can be either a standing committee, which is a committee that has permanent existence, like the Board of Operations, or it can be a special committee that's created at the same time in the motion. For example, I move to refer the motion on chocolate and the amendment relating to vanilla to a special committee composed of me, the president, and you can change that to be whatever composition you want. And motions to refer are fully debatable, and they require a majority vote. Okay, tabling and postponing. Actually, two separate motions, but often confused. The motion to table, which in its full form is to lay on the table, should actually rarely come up, if ever, in the DSU. It's from the American legislature, and it's used there, but we don't really need it. Because what it does is it sets aside the motion forever without debate and only by a majority vote until it's brought back. And it's used for emergencies to set aside whatever is pending so that you can get quickly to whatever needs to be done. But because it kills debate by a majority vote, it contradicts one of those fundamental principles we talked about earlier, that the minority should not be silenced unless there's a large consensus that we need to move on. So when people say motion to table, what they really mean usually is postpone, which just means postpone or defer it to another time, the next council meeting, until after the chocolate convention, so on and so forth. And unlike the motion to table, it's debatable and therefore more democratic. So generally avoid table unless you're using it for an emergency. So stick with postpone. Okay. Reconsider. If a motion has been voted upon and we realize that we made a mistake, made a hasty or ill-informed decision, we can use the motion to reconsider if we do it either at the meeting where the motion was passed or at the next meeting. And to use the motion to reconsider, you have to have voted on the winning side. So if the motion passed, you have to have voted yes. If the motion failed, you have to have voted no, which is to prevent people from using the motion to reconsider to stall and take up time for their own defeated motion, or taking up time vindictively. And it only requires a majority because it doesn't change the outcome, it just brings it back before council. So you basically just start all over again as if it had just been moved. This is the more intense version of reconsider. If the time has elapsed, so a motion was passed a long time ago, or 2 meetings ago, I guess, the motion to rescind needs to be used because you can't reconsider it. Rescind, unlike reconsider, which brings it back, rescind just cancels it out entirely, which is why there's a higher voting threshold to ensure the stability of decision making, because if it took the same voting threshold to undo something as it did to do something, then each meeting we could just go back and forth and back and forth. So that's why rescind requires a 2/3 vote, and there's no time limit. You can move to rescind anything at any time. Yeah, absolutely.
I thought that a motion to rescind only needs 2/3 majority if it wasn't noted at the previous meeting.
Yes, that's correct. Yes. Yeah. And of course, some things can't be rescinded, especially if it already happened. Signed a check, signed a contract, gave someone money. If you've accepted a resignation or someone's been elected or expelled from office, the only way to reverse that is through the way that it's stated in the Constitution or bylaws. So if someone's been expelled from office, they have to get elected again. We can't rescind the motion to recall. Okay. Right. So this is normally a motion, but under DSU rules, you can just ask the chair to end debate on a motion, and because of the right of the minority to be heard, it requires a 2/3 vote if it goes to a vote, and it's undebatable. And calling the question just ends debate on whatever motion you're discussing and moves directly to a vote. Right. Remember, the majority has a right to conduct business efficiently, but the minority, especially a large minority, has a right to be heard, which is why it's 2/3. Okay, here we go, recess and adjourn. So recess, you motion to recess if you want to take a break in the proceedings. I'm a huge fan of recesses. Sometimes in student politics, things get heated, tempers get hot. There's nothing like a 5-minute water break to calm the atmosphere, and it usually helps a lot. Which is why the chair has the power to declare recesses if I think it's necessary. And you can also move for a recess like so. I move to recess for 10 minutes. And finally, I think this is the last one, the motion to adjourn, which is to end the meeting. can only be moved when no other motion is pending, which means when everything else, when we're not talking about anything else. But you can move it at any time during the meeting, and doesn't require a second and is not debatable. Oh, right. Okay, in camera. In case any of you were wondering, in camera is Latin for in the room, i.e. what happens in the room stays in the room, which means that non-members of council are excluded and the proceedings are secret. No minutes are taken, so it requires a 2/3 vote and is not debatable. And in camera is normally only used for sensitive things like personnel issues when you're talking about an employee, because of course all our proceedings are broadcasted. You don't want that sort of thing on the airwaves. And you move it like so. Yeah?
In phasing in camera motion, do proxy members stay or no?
Yeah, they do, because they're members at the time. Danny? Thanks. Okay, now some of the fun tools, my favorite part. Request for information, which used to be called point of information, but the editors of Robert's Rules changed that because people kept using it to make their own points. Like point of information, wouldn't you say that's a really bad idea? That's not a question. You're using a point of information to make a point of debate. So it's been changed to request for information to make it clear that that's what you're making. When you make a request for information, you can interrupt someone who's speaking, but you don't have to. You can wait till they're done. And the speaker has to consent to the interruption. And if they do, and time is being limited, like 2 minutes per speaker, the time is taken out of the speaker's time, not yours. So talking about chocolate, request for information, and if whoever is speaking agrees, Vice President, Financial and Operations, how much money is in our chocolate budget? All right, next one. Point of order. The point of order draws the chair's attention to a violation of the rules. So hopefully, after this, and after you guys take a look at some of the Constitution, the bylaws, and the union rules and procedures, you'll have a good sense of what a meeting should be running like, but sometimes they don't always go that way. And so if you notice that there's a problem or something is not being adhered to, you can raise a point of order anytime, you can interrupt someone, and the chair will either rule your point well taken and take action. So let me think. There are certain rules of debate, like don't call someone names. That's a good one. Point of order, and then the chair can either correct the member and say, stop calling that person names, or they can say the point is not well taken and then take no action. And in that case, you can appeal the chair's ruling using a device we'll get to in a moment. Next one, Danny. Okay. The point of personal privilege, which rarely arises because usually it can be covered by a point of order, but you never know. If you're being misrepresented, misquoted, or there's a matter of your honor at stake, you can raise a point of personal privilege, and it functions the same way as a point of order. The chair rules on it, and it can be appealed. Appealed, like, Danny? Oh, where did my appeal section go? Is it next? Oh no, I forgot the appeal slide. All right, well, that's awkward. I'll just go through it now. So any decision of the chair can be appealed by two members, a mover and a seconder. Immediately after the decision or ruling is made, you can say, I appeal from the decision of the chair. In the DSU rules, it says challenge the chair. I would recommend avoiding that language, A, because it's hostile, and B, because it's inaccurate. You're not challenging the person, you're challenging their decision. So I would say appeal from the decision is better language than challenge the chair. But anyways, you can raise that if you disagree with the chair's decision on any matter. And the person who raised the appeal and the chair are the only people who are allowed to speak. And after that, a majority vote can overturn a decision of the chair. And this ensures that the chair doesn't get to use the rules to silence people they don't like or to advance their own personal agenda. It gives council the ability to enforce its own rules. Okay. Go ahead, Danny. Right. So there is a chair, or there will be a chair very soon. Their job is to apply the rules fairly and to ensure that no one is abusing them, to ensure that no one is raising points of order over and over again just to stall or making frivolous motions about chocolate. Remember, even though I've blown through a lot of information and it seems intimidating, the person who knows the rules the most is not the boss. Council maintains control of its own agenda and of its own functionings, and so don't be intimidated by someone who can quote chapter and verse. You're free to appeal. You're free to ask questions. I highly recommend doing some reading. I find that the more knowledgeable you are about the rules, the easier it is to function. So just don't be intimidated by an intimidating chair, or someone a barrack lawyer, like Tim said. The chair, because they're supposed to be impartial, doesn't speak to business unless they leave the chair. And like I said, they're responsible to council via appeals and points of order. Okay, I think the last one. Right, summer reading for everyone. You don't have to do this, but I think you would find it useful. You should definitely read the DSU Constitution and the bylaws. That is something you all should definitely do. The union rules and procedures, it's only 9 pages, I think. Short paper. It's the rules we operate on. It's probably good to know. And they're in bullet point, so it's even shorter. And if you like, let's be honest, if you're nerdy, you can also pick up Robert's Rules of Order in brief, or the full Robert's Rules of Order, which is 600 pages. But I have a copy of the in brief, which is sort of a for dummies version. I'd be happy to loan that out if you need it. That was a lot of information really quickly. Go if you have any questions, love to answer them. And also, you can feel free to get in touch with me if you have a question about procedure in the future.
Just out of like pure curiosity, how long were meetings at the KSU?
It varied, I would say. This year, I don't think we had a single meeting over 3 hours. Or 4 hours was probably our max. But in past years, it definitely stretched to a couple of times it went to 6 or 7, but that's only because we never imposed limits on debate.
I think that's it.
Danny, can you bring up the thing on the projector? Yeah. Sorry, I have some technical difficulties here. If you have it in front of you, that's fine. I can just read it off here. So after that, the next item on the agenda is the decision item to approve the ad hoc budget committee. So I would like to actually just give people the option of moving into moderated caucus about this motion or calling to question. And Mehboob, if you'd like to speak to the motion as well, I think that'll put a lot of things in people's put a lot of things in context. So if you'd like to do that.
We're proposing a ad hoc budget committee to review this DSU budget of 2014-15, and the purpose is the procedure budget is prepared for DSU. The previous VPFO prepared the budget. It was approved by the previous council. So I'd like to give the chance of the students, general body, to go through the whole budget in a committee, because I'm wondering there is why no such committee exists, and For now, we are making an ad hoc budget committee, but in the long run, I have a plan to propose a committee that will be a permanent committee. So this committee will review the budget, will talk to the new executives who we are incoming executives, we have no input in the budget, and talk with the councillors. And of course, we'll discuss with our all the departments, our functional departments, operational departments, and also have a consultation session with the general students population if they have any idea. And then they will bring out recommendation to the council, and council then decide on that. I think it's a fair process to involve more people in the budget making process. It's the starting. And if it goes well, we'll go with the permanent budget committee. And I hope next year our budget will be more participatory by the students and it will serve students better.
Thank you. At this time, again, I'll give the opportunity for people to motion to go into moderated caucus or call the question. Oh, yes. So anybody would like to be the mover for either of those things, please? Sorry. Himan, would you like to move to what? Okay. Can you, somebody pass him a mic? Do we have a mic around? The orange one? Yeah, just for the viewers at home.
Do I have to read?
Yeah, why not?
Sure. I'd move the motion, be it resolved.
Oh, sorry. I'm so poor at these Robert's rules. Chairing a meeting is a lot harder than it looks, by the way. So he is the mover, then seconded. Perfect. Okay, excellent. So do you want to read out the main motion?
I think be it resolved that a budget committee ad hoc is created to review the DSU budget of 2014-15. Be it further resolved that the budget committee is comprised of Vice President Finance and Operations as chair and 2 executives, 2 councillors and 2 non-councillor members. Be it further resolved that the budget committee will report back to the council with recommendations on the first council meeting of July.
All right. So thank you for seconding that, Hima. All right. So all in favor of approving this decision item, please raise your hands. Oh, that was a motion to call the question, right? We can debate it. Yeah, we can debate. Okay, motion to call the question. Okay, so yeah. So now the question has been called. Now the question is on the floor. Okay, now let's vote on the question itself, which is to approve this committee, right? So all in favor of approving this committee, please raise your hand. Thank you. All in opposition, please raise your hands. Any abstentions? Okay, thank you. And yeah, would they like to be noted? Okay, cool. And this committee, be advised, is for appointment later during this meeting as well. Moving into the, sorry. Yeah.
When I made the amendment to the agenda, I didn't specify where it should go. It just simply has to go before the appointment.
So that should be the next item, yeah.
Is that okay? Like, I'm not sure I specified.
Yeah, we'll need a unanimous vote of council to approve that change, to add it right. Yeah, where was it added, Danny? So, yeah. Yeah, so according to our constitution, we're allowed to make people who aren't current members of the union in good standing as honorary members. So Ali was going to motion, she has the motion written down, but essentially something along the lines of, you know, granting honorary membership status to the incoming chair, whoever they may be. So. No, because at the time when the request was made, I was in the assumption that it would be after this decision item, so we don't need to do that. So Ali, would you like to speak to your motion?
I would love to.
Could somebody pass her an orange mic? Yes, thank you. Yeah, totally.
If I could also have a seconder for the motion, that would be great.
Could I have a seconder for the motion? Seconded by Laura.
Great. Yes, so this was a motion that I was approached with today. And the idea of this motion is that if someone runs to be the chair of council and is voted in by council, and that person is not a student, we would be able to give them honorary membership of the union, making it possible for them to be the chair. I believe the reason that this motion is being put forward is because there is someone who is running to be the chair who is in this situation. And the reason I chose to move it is because I think that this is an issue that ought to be discussed at council versus one that is just made behind closed doors. In terms of being in favor of the motion, I think that it's really important to have a chair who council believes is strong, and it's not necessarily my experience in being the chair for the past year. I don't know if being a student is necessarily that important to the position. On the flip side, I would be really interested to hear from anybody who could speak to it about the if we're just doing this procedurally correctly, and if this is a big enough motion that it ought to have been noticed and gone through the Board of Ops, or just if anybody has an opinion on that, I'd love to hear it.
At this point, open the floor to if anybody wants to move into a moderator caucus. Let's motion to do that if anybody likes to. Yeah, with specified speaking times. So motion to, Hima, you had a motion? So we have a motion for a 5-minute moderated caucus with 1-minute speaking times, and that's opened up. I'll be making. Can you please? Oh, thanks, thanks. So Mr. Coney's received speaking rights from Jacqueline.
Radical. Basically, well, there's lots of stuff concerning with the proposed motion itself. One thing that in either case, if it was to be approved, that would need to be added, is that bylaw 6 or bylaw 2, section 6 says that honorary members, which bylaw 5 allows us to do, honorary members are non-voting members of the union. As such, this would prevent any honorary member from actually being able to serve in the full capacity of the chair, because the chair needs to vote when there's a tie on motions or amendments and stuff. So yeah, also procedurally, I feel like it really should have gone to the a much bigger notification should have been called. So, but yeah, it's just that would need to be added.
Who's the next person on the speakers list?
Yes, the next person on the speaker list is Hannah. Sorry, our DEGS rep, DUES rep, sorry, DUES rep, DUES.
I just want to comment that bylaw 7 in the council says that the council in the appointed positions, it says who must be members in good standing with the union at the time of their election. So I don't know how we could appoint the chair and then grant them honorary membership. I think you'd have to do it where you grant them honorary membership and then allow them to run, ignoring what was just brought up.
My understanding is that we could receive the election results, appoint that person as an honorary member, and then, like, could we do something like that? Not eligible to run? Okay, cool. I just thought maybe we could. Yeah. I was just going to see. Cool. Who's next on the speakers list?
Yeah, so a lot of points have just been, this one's really loud. A lot of points have two great points have just been raised. I think it's a sensitive topic where two of these proposed candidates are in the room right now, so I don't want to get into too much of that because I don't want to like talk against somebody. But the principle stands. I think that like Hannah just said, I don't understand this whole honorary member thing, and I don't think that it's a position that we should put ourselves in the first meeting of council. It does not seem it does not seem very responsible, and I would like to not support this at this time based on that. But I want people to think what Hannah said. Thank you. Excuse me for my awkwardness.
Just kind of clarifying like what the vote would need to be. Like what we're doing here is changing what our constitution says we should be doing already as well in the first meeting. And I'm just wondering what the vote to change our constitution is and what the if this like wasn't mentioned beforehand, I haven't been able to talk to anyone about it. It's something I've had issues with before. That's all. Shady.
At this point, we're not actually. I just want to clarify that we're not actually changing the constitution. I think the motion is to exercise bylaw that grants us the ability to. So bylaw number 5, bylaw 2, section 5. I think that's the vote to exercise that motion. Sorry, exercise that clause in the constitution. So yeah, would anybody else like to speak to that? Aaron.
No, nobody can hear you if you yell.
I was just wondering if that bylaw said anything about needing to have it referred to the Board of Ops before granting honorary membership to someone, or if there's any other process.
Can you speak into the mic? Can you raise your hand and be called onto the chair?
Sorry. There's no chair.
Rams is the chair until one's appointed.
Anyway.
Yeah. Okay, so somebody wants a motion to extend moderated caucus? Jomo? Okay, well, there's a motion to extend moderated caucus by 3 minutes with 1 minute speaking times, or with 30-second speaking times. All right. All in favor of approving the extending moderated caucus? All right, cool. Approved. Who was next on the list? I'm forgetting. Jen.
So just to touch on a couple things. First of all, we wouldn't be changing the Constitution in any way. It's really important to point that out. That's not a thing at all. Hannah, in regards to your question, sorry, I'm going to talk fast so that I can get in 30 seconds. But Hannah, in regards to your question, the Be It Resolved clause suggests that any that the honorary membership would be granted at the time that the position would be created. At the time that the sorry, can I slow down so I don't have to? So council grant honorary membership to any successful candidate, so it would be an automatic thing that if they were elected, they would be an honorary member. And so we wouldn't actually be going against the Constitution in any way.
Aaron, you want, you raised your hand earlier? Okay, no. Anybody else would like to speak?
Yeah, you can raise your hand again.
Yeah, okay.
So anyway, I would like to say that it is really important to have a really strong chair. I think something that we saw last year is that we need to have a lot of organization. We need to have a lot of knowledge on policy. And this, but I mean, it is really important to have someone who is really strong as chair. And so opening up the pool to more applicants, I think, is a reasonable thing to do.
I agree. Yeah.
Just a sec, I was opening it up. So I'm just like, if we start to like open up positions that are paid to non-DAO students, I think that's going to open it up to be like for honorariums and all this stuff. And then our DAO money that we're spending, we're paying for DAO students to be able to have this experience and put it on their resumes, and they have the issues, they know the issues because they're DAO students. I don't think this is somewhere that a non-DAO student shouldn't be sitting at this table.
All right, we have Jacqueline next, actually.
I wanted to make a quick comment on the point that this is something to put on your resume. That just really ticked with me very, very quickly. This is not something you're doing to put on your resume. If you're not here because you care about the things that your constituents are telling you are important to them, you really ought not to be here, and I suggest you find someone else to get elected to this table. I wouldn't want to be here for any other reason than that, and I wouldn't want to sit at the table with anyone else that was here for those reasons. So I like your point about being paid. I also like the point about having a very strong, efficient, effective, and knowledgeable chair. And I think that if we have someone in the room that meets those qualifications and isn't at this moment a DAO student, for our own benefit and for the benefit of our constituents, we should take that person into consideration.
Ali's next.
Great. So I was the council chair last year, and I'm still not sure how I'm going to vote on this motion, but I just think it's fair to say, from my experience, in December I was called in for like a halfway through my year meeting with Sagar, who was the president of the DSU at that time. So I'm going to try to paraphrase something that he said that was very interesting, and he said that it was unfair to like force student. Okay, let me try to like say this in a way that is. He basically was saying that it is not always fair to put students into the position of being chair because it is a position that requires a lot of knowledge and experience. And it was his idea that I heard first to do this, and it's just something that's been discussed for a long time. That just might be interesting information to people if they, yeah.
All right, Hima's next on the speakers list.
So I just have a quick point in regards to actually whether my only concern or one of my main concerns would be the fact that if they're not a student, then they don't have to be in Halifax for the year. So by being a chair, do they guarantee to us that they will be here for the year? Because honorary member doesn't mean that they have classes or anything, that they need to be physically here. So that would be my main concern. That do they guarantee us that they would be here for the? Could we get them to sign a contract, maybe something that they're going to be here for the year guaranteed?
Yeah. Daniel's the next on the speakers list. Oh, yeah. So sorry, extend. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So motion to extend moderator caucus. Anybody would like to? All right. Has been moved by Das. Any seconders for that motion? Oh, sorry. 3 minutes with 30 seconds speaking times, right? That's why. So any seconder? Perfect. So let's go take it to voting. All in favor of extending moderator caucus by 3 minutes for 30 seconds speaking times? Raise your hands. All in opposition and abstentions? Perfect. Okay. All right. So now we have extended our moderator caucus. We have Daniel. You were willing to? No. Aaron, we have you on the list.
Hima, I can only say my opinion on what you asked, not official DSU response, but it seems like it's the biggest businesses can't sign contracts to like hold people one place. Anyone who's at this table can resign at any point, and a chair who was a student could as well. I would expect that the person who was applying was committing to the whole year because they wanted to. The other thing I wanted to say is I think, to my knowledge, a lot of student unions in the country actually mandate that the chair cannot be a student because they want that outside perspective and they want that experience. I'm not sure what the most common thing is across student unions, but I know that a lot of student unions, that is an option.
Daniel's, oh sorry, Mehboober's the next person on the list, followed by Daniel.
So about the motion, I'm not 100% confident because we can appoint someone honorary member, but I'm not sure whether an honorary member is a member of good standing. So I need some clarification about this because there should be member in good standing of the union. So is honorary member of good standing? I'm not sure. If anyone can clarify me. And other than that, I think it's good to open up, but I'm not sure it is the right time to do that because the nominating committee, the previous nominating committee already have gone through the process. So
Daniel?
Yeah, so it just to what you said, that this has been discussed like earlier last committee. So was it brought to council that this would be like a good idea to discuss in and like voted on before like a first council meeting with people that don't really know what's been going on beforehand?
No, it's just two of us like venting our frustrations in a room. I thought that was clear. I think it has not been discussed at council yet. That's true. Yeah, I just wanted to raise the point that the past president had like made a comment on it at one point. Was all that I was presenting there.
Jen's next on the speakers list.
So I just wanted to touch on your point about good standing. So an example of a member that wouldn't be in good standing is if you had paid your union dues and then dropped all of your classes, right? So like pay all your new union dues, then you're technically a member, but if you drop all your classes, then you're no longer a student, therefore you're not a member in good standing. So like that's what's meant by member in good standing. And so like having an honorary membership would like be a member in good standing.
So what's the constitution or the bylaws saying? The person has to be in good standing, or what is it exactly? So if the bylaws or the constitution says that a person has to be has to be in good standing, has to be a DAL student, is it mentioned? then I find no reason why we need to get into a discussion of having a chair who is not a DAL student if the Constitution clearly says that we need to have a person in good standing and should be a DAL student. Is it said in the Constitution? That's a point of information.
Yeah, Jin's gonna clarify that.
So there's a couple different parts to it. As far as members of council being appointed by council, it says council shall also include the following people who must be members in good standing of the union at the time of their election and during their term in office. One of those members on this list is the chair. It also talks about, and so that states that they have to be a member of the union, right? Under membership, it says that council may bestow honorary membership upon individuals who are not currently members as defined by this bylaw. And so that's like we're within the Constitution by doing this.
Here, can you just talk to the microphone and people at home can hear you?
I'm just wondering if anyone knows where it defines good members in good standing or like voting members, because I think the point that was made earlier where honorary members might not have the right to vote, and then I think that would be an issue with having the chair. So I was wondering if anyone knew about that.
Yeah, so under membership, the one that I read before was number 5.6 says that honorary members shall be non-voting members of the union. So like William pointed out before, we will have to amend this so that we could amend it in a way that like in the case that there's a tie and the chair needs to vote, the honorary member gets to break that tie. You know, like we could do something like that, or we could postpone the actual motion until another council meeting when more councillors show up. You know, like there are ways that we can work around that.
Jomo, I believe you're next on the speakers list.
These are my personal thoughts. I personally feel there should be a DAL student sitting right there as the chair, because we as student union are representing students. That's what the Dalhousie Student Union should not forget. And if it's a student union, there should be a DAL student over there. That's what I highly encourage.
Just want to check for time. We've probably exhausted our moderator caucus. So again, we have 30 seconds left, so Jacqueline's next on the speakers list.
The quick comment that Jamal just made about being a student and being the chair, my favorite thing I think about having someone who isn't a student be the chair is that we're getting someone who's as unbiased as you can be sitting in council. The chair is not supposed to be here to be on one side or another. They're supposed to be here to just sort of organize the meetings and make sure everything functions well. So having a student there, if it's a point of pride for the university, that's one thing. That's really imputing a lot of feeling into the decision. It's not imputing the kind of functionality and procedure that we're looking for in a chair. So I respect what you said, but I have to disagree. I think the chair is here just for order, and we have to understand that.
All right, that's the end there. We've exhausted our speaking time for moderator caucus. We can motion to extend it again if people feel necessary, or we can call the question. All right. All right. Any motions? Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. Thanks. If you are forming committees today, it's better if this discussion is being extended every time. It's better we refer this motion to a committee that will be formed today. Let the committee decide what the best option is. Let us know if that's the right decision, and then the council can have a vote of what to be done, what needs to be done. Because at this point, I'm sure everybody has different views, and just calling the question and going for a yes or no doesn't make sense because nobody knows what's happening.
Okay, so to my understanding, this motion can be referred to a particular committee, I believe. But the other downside is that we're appointing the chair today. So of course, like referring to a committee, you wouldn't get to hear anything back till next June. So that's just pointing it out. So we'd have to appoint the chair then. Ali, would you have anything to add here? Yeah, please do.
It is also my belief that democratic decisions are not made under time stress. I think that trying to make this decision when we are all stressed for time and like saying we need to decide today is not the way to make the best decision. I would be open to different options, whether Rams would be comfortable to continue chairing this meeting. I would also be comfortable, as I was the DSU Council Chair last year, I would be comfortable to step down from my voting role as Senate. Oh, actually, no, I can't because I'm running for a position.
Yeah.
Never mind. I can't do that. But like, I think that it might be worth trying to find a solution so that we can refer this to a committee and get our policy facts backed up before we make this decision. So motion to refer to, I don't know who to refer it to, but like if you guys can help me
To
out
the
with
Board of
that.
Operations it would go to.
Great. Motion to refer to the Board of Operations to make sure that this motion would be procedurally and legally correct before we vote on it at council, and to have Rams, our president, continue to chair the meeting in the absence of a chair, which is in the Constitution.
So yes, so we'll essentially what that means is that we'll have the vote on our actual council chair in the June meeting that we have, and there will be an interim chair, possibly me or somebody else chairing this meeting. Sorry, I'll just let Jen speak to that.
Here, sorry, because, so can I just ask, motion to refer, is that debatable? Do we know? I should know that.
It is debatable, yeah.
So I think that since we had a motion to refer, that is now open to debate, that motion that I just put forward.
So yeah, Joma? Yes. Yeah.
Point of order. We need a seconder, right?
Yeah. Seconded by Jacqueline, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So the reason why I said it's the reason why I thought of referring the motion was thinking it can have a better discussion, but as Ram said, it would take time, right? It's going to go till June, and I would not want the student union to start off with a delay in just appointing the chair. And at the same time, Rams, you just said that you don't find it easy to chair a council meeting. That's what you said at the start. So I would not want you being chairing a meeting if you yourself are not comfortable doing it, and I would not want you stepping down as a Senate rep and having this big mess right at the first council meeting. Let's start off with a positive attitude. That's what I have to say.
Jacqueline is next on the speakers list.
This is we're debating referring this to a committee. I would really like to see us have a chair by the end of this meeting. I think it's something that we're meant to do at the first meeting of the year. I think we were also told today that it was a deliberative body. Yeah, we're constitutionally bound to appoint a chair. Like, talk about breaking the Constitution. That is breaking the Constitution. We were told it's a deliberative body. We can make a decision. It's what we're meant to do. As we've seen already, it's almost 2 hours into this, and we've only gotten this far. So having a really good chair would probably be an asset right now.
Jen's next, actually, followed by Laura.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo the fact that it would be really great if we had someone that knew the rules right now chairing. I also just wanted to point out that we're actually, voting this through doesn't mean that we'll actually go through with it, right? Like, what happens in the appointments is then we talk about who's going to be chair. Anyone who's nominated will then say their case, and then we'll vote then. So this voting on this doesn't mean that we're automatically going to be going through with this. It will depend on whether or not there is a non-student who will be running and we elect that person. So we can put this through and it still won't necessarily be a thing, is all I want to say.
Can a chair be recalled, and if so, with how much?
I believe a chair can be fired because they're a staff member of the union.
Yeah, yeah, we'll have to look into that. Could someone work on answering that question? We'll get back to that question. Okay, Bill? Moving into it, so Laura, you had a... Okay. I didn't say anything at the last time. I'd like to add myself to the speakers list, so I'm taking off the chair hat, putting on the president one. At this point, so this motion, yeah, again, was not noticed. There's huge implications here in terms of we've never actually done any sort of honorary membership, so I don't know if there's any precedence or procedure there. It hasn't gone to BOPS. We haven't even gotten the legal question there. We haven't figured that out. But then again, I do see the value of having a large pool of candidates so we can have high quality of candidates as well to make it competitive. So, and that's the decision that's on your shoulders now as councillors to decide whether in the interest of having a strong chair, we're willing to enforce and rarely used bylaw, to make that happen. So that's it.
I think Danny was before me.
Actually, yeah. So Laura scratched. So Danny's next. Yes.
I'll just remind everybody there was an application process. There's been a nomination committee to go through all these applications, and they did select a candidate. So the time for that large pool you're referring to, Rams, has since passed, and I just want to say let's just get a chair and please get on with our meeting here. I want to motion to table this indefinitely if possible. If that's procedurally allowed at this point, I just want to. Oh, okay, cool. Postpone indefinitely.
So I can't ignore that apparently. So so this will be a vote then. Okay. There has been a motion to postpone this motion, and so now that's on the floor. So all in favor of postponing this motion indefinitely, please raise your hands. Yes. Oh yeah. Oh shit. Sorry. Okay. Yeah.
I'm gonna withdraw my motion to refer.
Okay.
And I think it's friendly to let Danny not say his motion to. Yeah. Go ahead. Like you don't have to say it again. I just was it a motion
Yeah.
to postpone indefinitely? I'm okay with you not saying that again. Okay.
So the motion to refer has been removed from the floor, and now we have a motion to postpone indefinitely. So all in favor of do you have a second for that? Okay. Seconded by Hannah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, might as well, Danny. Yeah. So, Danny, are you willing to withdraw this motion? Thank you. All right. So, anybody would like to extend moderate caucus or call the question? All right, the question has been called. It has been seconded by Rebecca Hayworth, the Board of Governors representative. So now we're moving into voting. So, all in favor of approving the motion as is presented, please raise your hands. Any oppositions? Any abstentions? All right. So 1, 2, 3. Actually, hold on. That looked really close. I want to do that again if people don't mind. Yeah, that looked really close. I'm going to count that. 1 second. Sorry, I apologize for the recount, but all in favor? Ding Fan, is that a hand raised? 9, and then, okay. Yeah. All right, 10, yeah. Any oppositions? 9. Any abstentions? 4. Okay. All right. So we do need a simple majority. No.
Sorry, what were the numbers?
Huh?
What were the numbers?
Oh, the numbers. So we have 10 in favor, 9 against, and 4 abstained. So that would mean that doesn't pass. Yeah, that doesn't pass. What? Doesn't pass. Does it pass?
10 is bigger than.
Simple majority then. Perfect. The motion passes. So we are now considering honor membership for any candidates for the chair position. Thanks for bearing with me through that process. Appreciate that. Now moving in, Danny, if you want to pull up the agenda again, we'd like to move on with the rest of the items of the meeting. So appointment of a DSU Council Chair so that we can run this 10 times more smoothly. At this point, I'd open the floor for nominations. Anybody would like to nominate somebody else? Or? Oh, yeah. Okay. So first, we're going to hear about the recommendation from the nominating committee for Council Chair since there were applicants.
So actually, this recommendation was made by the previous nominating committee, and as now the present VVFO, I am forwarding this proposal. The nominating committee have the interview and brought William Connie as the council chair. So nominating committee is nominating him for the post of council chair.
All right. So William Coney has received the nomination from the nominating committee. Any other nominations? Going once. Going twice. Ali, would you like to nominate someone? Can you say that on the mic, please?
Nominate Jake.
Perfect. Jake, do you accept the nomination? All right. He said I do. All right, just for people. Yeah, at this point, Ali, I need some help here in just running the appointment. So could you?
To interject. So you will ask 3 more times if there are any other nominations. If you ask that 3 times and there are none, we will then move into voting, and we will stay on camera while the candidates come up, and you can tell them how much time they have to speak and how much time for question and answer. We will then move in camera and have a discussion about the candidates. We will then move out of camera and vote.
Okay. Also at this point, I'd like to give people the option of how to vote. That comes at this point as well?
I believe that it is automatically with ballots because
Yeah.
it is an election of people.
Okay, so it's automatically a secret ballot if people are wondering. We have those in the back. All right. At this point, yeah. Any more nominations? Another call. Second round call for nominations. Third call for nominations. Okay. Okay. So nominations has been denied by Mr. Fraze. So at this point, we have 2 current candidates for the position of chair. I'd like to invite. Well, I guess we can start. Sorry. Oh yes. So last names, please. C goes first. Okay. So Mr. Coney, please make yourself to the make your way to the front of the room. Yeah. So and Jake, I'll ask you to leave the room, please. All right. I think it's reasonable to give 5 minutes presenting time. Oh, okay. Maximum of 4. Coney, that's all you got.
4 minutes is all we got.
Yeah.
Sweet. Okay. I'll wait till the door's closed. Hi, I'm William Coney. I'm sure that many of you know me. I've been around for a while. I've done stuff. It's been fun. So basically, I've applied to be chair. I went through the nomination process. That was a lot of fun. My main concerns with entering the chair position would be basically making sure that things are abundantly clear as to what the hell's happening. And basically, that means not being your friend, to be a bit terse. Basically speaking, the role of the chair is to make sure that communication flows understandably and in a sane manner. It means that motions come to the members of the council in a manner that's sensible. There's sufficient notification for you to consult as you're supposed to do, and that discussion happens in a focused and effective manner. And for all of those, most of that problem has been communication. There's, generally speaking, we just need to be communicating on time and committing ourselves to not talking about things unless they've been sufficiently notified, and to making sure that as things come up, we understand and recognize how they're to be addressed. Other than that, like, I don't want to say that I have any opinions, because honestly speaking, if I have opinions, they don't matter. I'm not in charge of y'all. Y'all are the people who are the bosses of the union and who are in charge of the decisions that the union makes in behalf of all the student population. That's a lot of responsibility and power. And when you make those decisions, you need to be the best informed and understand the process as much as you can, which is ultimately what the role of the chair is. Yeah, I can speak about personal stuff that I've done, or stuff that I'm involved with, but honestly, most of us are involved with tons of things, and it doesn't really matter. So yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah. Any questions for Will? Okay. Let's say question and answer period. Let's say give 2 minutes.
No, don't give. It's officially stated.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 3 minutes is the maximum.
So maximum 15-second questions, but 2 minutes for questions right now. Daniel? Oh, sorry, no, Hema. Let's start from Hema. He had his hand up first.
So I guess my question is, why, like, why do you see yourself fit as chair? Like, what qualifications or how, like, are you aware of Robert's rules or how aware of you, like, union procedures, things like that?
I am very familiar with union procedures. I was basically I've been a role which has been just asking lots of questions throughout the last year. I was served on the elections committee last year, and they have brought up a hell lot of issues with the union rules and procedures and stuff. I'm very familiar with the interactions on the society level through my involvement with the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences Society, as well as how that actually directly influences society stuff in my role as the president of the Class 6 Departmental Association, as well as other Type 3 societies and stuff. Lots of stuff. I don't know.
Daniel had his hand up next, followed by Hannah, followed by Ali. Oh, you didn't have your. Oh, sorry. Just followed by Daniel, by Ali.
Are you a member in good standing?
At the present time, I am, and I intend to be the entire year, maybe even the year after that. We'll see.
Ali, she had a question.
Thanks for the presentation. I'm going to ask this question to both candidates. I'd just love to hear about your approach to the culture of council and working with council members who maybe aren't as well versed in Robert's Rules and Policy to make sure that it's very inclusive and just a welcoming environment.
Wicked. So basically, the way to do or to approach counselors who might not be as familiar with Robert's Rules, and all counselors really, is basically when they come to you with something and they're like, I want to do this, you be like, cool, this is how you do it. And then you explain why every time that's how you do it. Because it isn't really important. It's very important to explain how, but explaining why helps create a respect for procedure and for why procedure must be done, and an understanding of why you need to act in this specific manner. And it also lets you have people be able to share their knowledge with other people and other counselors and stuff. So basically, the key to it is basically explaining why any given action is done in this specific way, either within Robert's Rules or within our union policy and procedure or constitutionally. See? Si bueno? Grazie. Who's next?
All right. At this point, I think we've exhausted our time for our question. Yeah, we have 6 seconds left in our question and answer period. If there are other questions, I'd ask William to thank you for your speech. And would you mind sending Jacob? Thanks. Hi, Jake. Just at the front of the room, please. You just have 4 minutes, and then followed by 2 minutes of questions. So, yeah, absolutely.
Do you mind if I sit down?
No, no.
My legs will so I just wanted to thank everyone here for giving me the opportunity to speak to you. As I said at the beginning of the meeting, I have served as the chair of the King Students Union for 2 years. My tenure ended just a month ago. And even though I worked for the King Students Union as their presiding officer, I mostly took DAL classes. I'm graduating with a BA in history from Dalhousie with a minor in law and society. And so when I heard about the opportunity to continue my work in presiding and to stay in the community, I was very excited, but I didn't think I would be able to make staying in Halifax work financially, and so I didn't apply. And then circumstances changed very rapidly, and so I submitted my application 2 days after the deadline, and I completely understand the need for deadlines and the integrity of the hiring process. That being said, there's a reason that the council has the final say, and so I would just wanted to put my name out there and give you folks the choice of candidates. So like I said, I'm an experienced presiding officer. I have 2 years of presiding experience with the King Students Union. I'm a member of the National Association of Parliamentarians. During my tenure as chair with the KSU, I presided over meetings of the council, which is a little smaller than this, and also of the general body, usually meetings of 60 people. And I helped the KSU rewrite their bylaws and their constitution in line with the Society's Act of Nova Scotia and with Robert's Rules of Order, my one true love. If I am successful, if you do choose to vote for me, I will be staying in Halifax. I was very happy to learn that I could make it work, and so I'd be thrilled to serve the Dalhousie Student Union as chair. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you have, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Jeff. Questions? Daniel? Here, I'll get you a mic.
So I asked this to the last candidate. Are you a member of good standing? Are you a member currently a member in good standing?
So you're asking me to interpret the Dalhousie Student Union Constitution? Well, I know the point is that yeah, absolutely. So because the reason that we went through the honorary membership process is that although I'm looking at courses at Dalhousie because I realized that I could stay in Halifax. I am technically still a member of the King Students Union, not of the Dalhousie Student Union, because that's where I worked and that's where I was registered. And so had I been able to switch over registrations and because I haven't taken a King's class in 2 years and I'm done working for the KSU, I would have done so. But again, this has all happened very quickly. Only in the last 2 weeks have I realized that I could make this work. So notwithstanding the motion that council just passed, the answer to your question is no.
Ali?
Asking this question to both of you. Obviously, you have a good understanding of policy and procedure. And my question is what can you tell me about your approach to creating a positive culture in council and working with students who might not have a lot of experience with Robert's Rules and with policy and making sure that it's welcoming and inviting and fair to those students?
I'm sorry if it didn't come through my presentation, but I always try and make sure that the rules are there to protect people, and so the rules are unnecessary when there's no one to protect. So I didn't mention this because it's only useful for chairs, but my favorite tool is unanimous consent. I find that normally there are a lot of things that most people agree on, procedural motions, not substantive motions. But that makes things go a lot faster. When I first started as chair, our meetings were ranged, 6 to 7 hours long, and my last year we didn't have one more than 4 hours. So I think the rules are there to serve the group, not the other way around. And like I said, I wrote some special rules of order for the King Students Union to make the standard Robert's rules work for them, for that particular group. And I know that the DSU has its own union rules and procedure, and I've already pointed out, I spoke to Jacqueline earlier today, and I've noticed some inconsistencies, and I'd be perfectly happy to work further and make those rules work for us.
All right, that's the end of the time. So that's, yeah. Are there any other questions? We could extend question period by another minute if people like, but okay, at this point. Thanks, Jake, for an excellent presentation. All right. So at this point, somebody can motion to move into camera and we can have a discussion on the candidates. Oh, thank you, Ali. Oh, seconded by Jomo. So Rob, we're offline. All in opposition. Okay. Any abstentions? Cool.
there another spell? I don't know. I just put will and
Yeah.
yeah, I guess.
Will and Dick. It would help. It would help. Yeah. The right to position. Yeah. Yeah. So please write your positions on your ballot as well.
Are you voting as president or chair? What happens if it's a tie? Yeah, exactly. If it's a tie, Mine died. Because you're chair and president, you get two votes if it's a tie.
No, the chair doesn't get a vote. The chair doesn't get a vote.
That happened before. There's a reason we did this.
Wait, make sure the box is
Are you guys gonna come around to the ballot box? Or should we go up?
You want me to do that?
Yeah. Yeah. Please.
Do you want our position on here? Or do we
Yes.
Okay, I got live here. And then I was about to for an hour and you're just like, and I get a message. Hey, it could stay a little bit longer. I'm not gonna stay no, I'm already but oh no, again.
No. Yeah. One second. Oh, does the chair typically come about?
I believe the chair and the secretary. Actually, no, that's for ballot for real. Just the chair and then the two people can appoint.
Yeah. All right. At this point, I'd like to get things started again. Everybody should have voted at this point. I'm just going to step outside to count the ballots. The two candidates have the option of selecting scrutineers. So if you'd like to appoint any one of us, otherwise I'll just step outside and count these ballots. And I'd like to. Could you run through the next few items? Okay. Thanks. Yeah, the next appointment is the one for secretary, so we're moving right into that. I'll be back. Thanks, Al.
But like we're doing secretary next. I believe that's just for secret ballot on non-elections, but I could be wrong. In the past, we have not had the secretary go out for elections. Yeah, in the past we haven't done that, but if council wants to do that, that's fine, and then we can just skip the appointment of the secretary and move on to the next item. We only have 45 minutes. Okay. Well, okay, so our next, maybe I'll just talk through the process. So our next appointment is the appointment of the secretary. Did we move secretary up? I thought so, but maybe not. Let's move on to the nominating committee. Is that okay with everyone? Because that's on the agenda next. Great. So now we're going to go into the appointment of the different committees for a while. And how that's going to work is we're just going to ask one of the executives to speak a little bit about what that committee is. And then we're going to go in and we're going to define how many council members must sit on that committee, how many non-council members must sit on that committee, and we will then like vote. Yeah. So the first one on here is the nominating committee, and I will pass the mic over to hear a little bit about what that committee is. Oh, also fun fact, I believe all councilors have to sit on a committee. So think about that.
So about the nominating committee. Actually, there are more committees to be filled in next week or next month, but this is not the all. So don't worry if you don't be in a committee today. The first committee, nominating committee, is chaired by the VPFO. That's me. And in this committee, we have 3 members and 3 alternate members. How that works? We have 3 members, 2 councillors, and 1 non-councillors as member. And we have 3 alternate members, or 2 councillor and 1 non-councillor as alternate. So this is an exception for alternate because for the nominating committee job is mostly taking interview and dealing the interview process. If one of the committee member of the main committee is not available at that time, what the nominating committee do, pick the alternate one. So that's why it is elected like that. So today we'll appointed 6 person for this committee, 2 council member for the main committee, 1 non-council member for the main committee, and then 2 council member as alternate member of the committee will replace the main member whenever necessary, and 1 non-council member as alternate for the committee. So I think the work it will be fun to nominate people because it's a lot of responsibility in terms of responsibility, but it will not take a lot of your time because there are specific positions that goes through the nominating committee like VPFO or Board of Operations Chair or the CRO. What are the main positions? Not all the hiring of the part-time staff members goes to the nominating committee, so it's not that workload. So I'll encourage councillors and as well as non-councillor to fill in the committee. Your goal should be sitting in the committee to select the right person for the DSU, and we're welcome to join the committee.
All right. At this point, actually, I'd like to announce the results of the previous election, and we have Jake as our new council chair. So I don't know how it's supposed to work, but right now, Jake, could you come to the front of the room and save us from my chairing? Thank you. Thank you.
Where's the agenda? Can I take your seat, Jen? Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. I appreciate being given this opportunity. Okay, so talking about the nominating committee. Nominations are open. Are there any nominations to fill the? Let's start with the councillor seats. Nominations to fill the councillor seats on the nominating committee. Just shout them out. Yes. Ali Caldiamond is nominated. Other nominations? Aaron. John Hutton is nominated. Do we know that he's accepted? Okay. Other nominations? For the alternate position? I'm sorry, your name is? I'm not wearing my glasses. Javon. Okay, thank you. Okay, Javon is nominated for the alternate position. Other nominations? Yeah. Oh, Giovanna. J-O-V-A-N-N-A. Other nominations going once? Yes.
Positions are filled, vacancies are filled as needed, but typically not.
Is there any people being nominated during the summer?
Nominations are ongoing. If there's vacancies.
Do you accept? Okay. Okay. Do you accept your nomination as alternate? Okay. Daniel Smith is nominated as an alternate. Other nominations? Yes. We're doing councillors first, and then after we'll do non-councillor. Other nominations for the councillor positions? Going once? Going twice? Okay, nominations are closed. Who's got the list? Did you get someone in? Yeah, GIO. Yeah, and we also had, and this is the nominating committee, not the budget committee.
Sorry, I'll change it. I'm changing it. Sorry.
Don't worry, don't worry. Don't panic. Watch this. Yeah, this is nominating committee. Okay, so the nominees are Ali Caladine, JD Hutton, and for the alternates, Giovanna and Daniel Smith. And correct me if I'm wrong, it's 2 positions. Okay, so unless there is any objection, then I will declare the members and alternates elected by acclamation. Any objections? No? Okay. Ali Caladine and JD Hutton are elected, and Giovanna and Daniel Smith elected as alternates. Moving on to, yes, to the non-council members of the committee. Nominations are now open. Ali. Okay, Jada Regan, do we know that she's accepted? Fantastic. Okay, Jada Regan is nominated. Other nominations for the non-councillor positions? William, do you accept? Yes, William Coney is nominated. Other nominations? Going once? One position and an alternate? Okay. Other nominations? Going once? Going twice? Okay, nominations are closed. The nominees are Jada Reagan and William Coney. Since there's 1 vacancy and 2 candidates, we now need to do the election process. If one of them wants to be an alternate, you can text her, but I'm going to keep going. Okay. So unless there's any objection, which you can do if you object to the way this procedure is going, we'll switch William to an alternate. Is there any objection to doing that? Okay. So we now have 1 nomination, Jada Regan for the position, and William Coney as an alternate, which leaves us with 1 and 1. So unless there's a call for a yes or no vote, seeing none, the candidates are elected by acclamation. Moving on. What's our next committee? Ad hoc budget committee. Okay. Actually, did we miss any positions for the nominating committee? Done. Okay. Ad hoc budget committee. How many positions do we have on that? Yeah, do you want to speak about the?
So we have already decided first of the meeting for this committee. So we have VPFO, me as a chair, and 2 executives as member, 2 councillor as member, and 2 non-councillor as member. So we need to fill up 2 executive position, 2 councillor position, and 2 non-councillor position.
Okay, so we'll start with the executive positions. Yes. So the committee will report back the first meeting of June? July. Okay. Fantastic. Yes, Sally. Jen is nominated. Other nominations for the executive? Rams Aziz is nominated. Other nominations for the executive positions? Going once, going twice. Okay, nominations are closed. There's 2 executive positions and 2 nominees. So unless there's a call for yes or no vote, seeing none, Jen and Rams are elected by acclamation. Moving on to the councillor spots. Nominations now open for the 2 councillor spots. Yes. Sorry, your name is? Hema is nominated. Other nominations? Yes. Joman? Jonelle, sorry. Jamel is nominated. Other nominations? Laura. Okay. Laura is nominated. Other nominations for the councillor positions? 3. There's 2 councillor positions with 3 nominees. Sorry. Other nominees. Going once, going twice. Okay. Nominations are closed for the 2 councillor positions. The nominees are Hema, Jamel, and Laura. Okay. So before we vote, is there any debate on the election for Hema, Jamel, and Laura for the 2 councillor positions for the ad hoc budget committee? So this can be speaking for or against a candidate. If the candidates want to speak or someone wants to speak on their behalf, that'd be great. Or we can just move to a vote. Yeah. Okay. So in the order in which they were nominated, Hema. Sorry?
Take a 30-second pitch. It doesn't matter, just because we have half an hour left. So I'm Hema. I'm a commerce student majoring in finance. I think numbers are cool, and I'd like to see the budget and see how we can make it better and find recommendations for council.
Okay. Jamel? Where's the other one? It's right beside you. Okay, take this one.
Good evening, folks. I only want to know where the money is spent, how the money is spent, for which area the money is spent, for which area the money is more spent, where it should not be spent, and there are any other things that needs to be considered. And yeah, that would be the highest priority at this moment. And I won't say that I may do a good job. I'm saying I will do a good job for sure. Thank you.
Thank you. And Laura.
I'm Laura. I've been on council for a year already, so I have a bit of an idea of how things work. I'd love to be involved in the budget process, and I'm happy to get feedback if there's anyone else who does have recommendations or who has questions about how things are going. I'm happy to answer emails about that or get people's feedback if I am on the committee.
Okay, is there further debate on the election before we move to a vote? Any other questions for the candidates? Okay, fantastic. So, we'll vote by majority to fill the first blank, and then we'll move on. Yes. Okay, let's do that then. Since the demand's been made. Can we? Yeah. Yeah. If it's a, yeah. Yeah, if it's a demand for a secret ballot. Yep. Okay. What's the next? So the the non-councillor positions for the committee. Okay. So while we're running that election for the councillor positions, we'll move on to nominations for the non-councillor positions for the budget ad hoc committee, the ad hoc budget committee. So nominations for the non-councillor positions. Open now. William Coney, do you accept? Oh yeah. No, for oh, sorry. Yeah, okay, William, ad hoc budget committee. Yes. Okay, William Coney is nominated. Other nominations? Yes. I'm sorry. Ranjit is nominated. Sorry, do you accept? Super. Other nominations? Going once. Other nominations? Going twice. None. Okay, so the nominees are William Coney and Ranjit. I'm sorry, I don't have your last name in front of me. Murugesan. Okay, so the nominees are William Coney and Ranjit Murugesan, and there's 2 vacancies and 2 nominees. So unless there's a call for yes or no vote, William Coney and Ranjit Murugesan are elected by acclamation. Was that a hand, Dan? Okay. Oh, valid. Okay, next committee. Board of Operations Chair. Okay, so the Board of Operations Chair, election 4. Yes.
So the process was run by the previous nominating committee, and I don't know, unfortunately this year we don't have that many candidates. At the end of the application process, only one candidate was willing to be interviewed, Andrew Mackey, and the nominating committee put forward his name without being interviewed because that he was the only candidate. So from behalf of the previous nominating committee recommendation, I put forward the name of Andrew Mackey for Board of Operations Chair. And I'm not sure whether he's here or not. No.
Did you contact him to let him know you were proposing his name?
Yes, previous BPFO mailed him.
Okay,
so I know he's informed. I know he's informed, but yeah. I don't know whether.
Okay. Well, if he knows that
he knows the
meeting
date and place.
He's been informed, so he accepted. Yeah. Okay. So, other nominations? Yes. William Coney is nominated. Okay, so I think William accepted. And the nomination of the nominating committee was Andrew Mackey, sorry. Okay. Okay, so the nominees are Andrew Mackey and William Coney. Are there any other nominations? Other nominations for the chair of the Board of Operations? Going once, going twice. Okay, nominations are closed. The nominees are Andrew Mackey and William Coney. And since this is an appointment by council, we now go through this lovely process. So, since there is only one vacancy and 2 candidates, we'll do a ballot vote, but first each candidate will have an equal time to speak to council. Sorry, William? Is there an alternate for the Board of Operations chair? No. Yeah, bring that up in the debate section. Okay, so since Andrew's not here, but anyways, Coney's first. So William, do you want to speak on your own behalf? Okay. Okay. Well, then I guess we'll move to questions. Yeah, go ahead. Yes. Moderated caucus? Oh, yes, if you want.
Yeah, keep in mind the building closes at 9, and we have so many things to discuss. We'd like to get the appointment done today at least, but given that we have 20 minutes, that's.
Okay, so.
Can someone speak to the Board of Operations? Like, no one's even done that. We're just rushing through this right now. I'm with you on this, Daniel. Like, what are we doing here? Go ahead.
I would love to. Hey everyone. So originally I was one of the people who applied to be the chair of the Board of Ops. I applied for that position quite a while ago, and I was contacted to come in for an interview, and I was just sort of in a frazzled time, and I turned it down because I have a lot coming up next year. And then just learned that not a lot of people had applied. Don't know a lot about Andrew Mackey, but I guess just through this process, I think that Will is just such an excellent candidate. Yeah, okay, sorry. I didn't realize that was great. What the Board of Operations is, the Board of Operations is a board that runs alongside council, and things run through the board because they are, to make sure they are like operationally, financially, and legally responsible. So that those conversations don't have to happen at council, they happen on the board. The way that the board is formed, I believe it has all of the executive members on it, and the VPFO is taking minutes and not voting. Is that correct? I haven't sat on a Board of Operations meeting before. And yeah, it is then composed of members who are students as well as alumni. And they have bi-weekly meetings, and the chair of the Board of Ops is in charge of doing a presentation on procedure and policy of the student union at the beginning. The chair of the Board of Ops also reports back to council with the results of decisions made at the Board of Operations. And that is what the chair of the Board of Ops does. And they chair the meetings with Robert's rules, etc.
Okay, so technically there'd be an in-camera debate where we'd ask the candidates to leave the room. No, I know, but it's an appointment by council, and such are the rules. Gotta do what we gotta do. Sorry, William. Yes, in camera. Sorry. So I'll ask our guests to leave. So I have the results of the sorry, that was for the councillor positions on the Budget Ad Hoc Committee. And Hema and Jamel are elected to the Budget Ad Hoc Committee. And Aaron, your motion. The motion is seconded. It is moved and seconded to postpone the election of the Board of Operations Chair until May 28th, until the May 28th meeting. Do we have? Till the next meeting of council. Okay, it is moved and seconded to postpone the election of the Board of Operations Chair until the next council meeting. Is there any debate on the motion? Okay, those in favor of the motion to postpone, please say aye or raise your hands. Those opposed to the motion to postpone? The election, do you want to be noted? Okay. The election of the Board of Operations Chair is postponed to the next council meeting. Moving on to Secretary. Okay.
This motion is just to appoint our secretary. So I'd like the chair to just open up the floor for nominations, and we'll go from there.
Nominations for the position of secretary are now open. Jacqueline. Josie is nominated. Other nominations? Going once. Going twice. Okay, nominations are closed. The nominee is Josie, and since there's one vacancy and one nominee, unless there's a call for a yes/no vote, seeing none, Josie is elected by acclamation. Moving on to the member-at-large election. Okay, so does someone want to speak first to the position, and then we'll open nominations?
What of these committees can be moved to the next meeting? A society review committee is important to be here right now. Grants committee potentially could be
Okay, is there unanimous consent to skip member-at-large and grants committee and go to society review committee? Yes, there is. We're now on society review committee. What are the vacancies? Two councillor, one non-councillor? Okay, there are two councillor vacancies and one non-councillor vacancy. So we'll do councillors first for the society review committee. Nominations are now open. Yes.
Staff Representative Caitlin Lowe.
Caitlin Lowe is nominated. Other nominations? Yes. Okay, Ding Fan is nominated. Other nominations? Going once? Going twice? Okay, nominations are closed. The nominees are Caitlin Lowe and Ding Fan. There are two vacancies and two nominees. Unless there's a call for a yes or no vote, Caitlin Lowe and Ding Fan are elected by acclamation. Moving on to the non-councillor vacancy. Nominations are now open. There's one non-councillor vacancy for the Society Review Committee. Any nominations?
If possible, I'm not a member of this, but I could for as a non-council member, I would like to nominate myself.
Okay, what's your name?
Julian McGuire.
Julian McGuire is nominated. Other nominees or other nominations? Yes. Yes. Yeah, I think so. Yes. Other nominations? Going once? Going twice? Okay, Julie McGuire is the nominee, and since there's one vacancy, unless there's a call for yes or no vote, Julie McGuire is elected by acclamation. So, going back to the agenda, we're back on member at large. So, look. All right. So, member at large, we're. Okay. Okay. Is there a seconder for the motion to postpone? Okay, it is moved and seconded to postpone the election of the member at large to the next meeting. Is there any debate on the motion to postpone? Those in favor of postponing the member at large election to the next meeting, raise your hands, please. Those opposed to postponing, please raise your hands. Okay, the motion to postpone is adopted. The election for member at large is postponed. Moving on to the election of the grants committee. Is there any debate on the motion? Is there a seconder for that motion to postpone? It is moved and seconded to postpone the election of the grants committee to the next council meeting. Is there any debate on the motion to postpone? Those in favor of postponing the election of the grants committee to the next meeting, please raise your hands. Those opposed to postponing, please raise your hands. The election of the grants committee is postponed. Moving on to the accessibility committee. Yes. Is there any objection to voting on accessibility committee, academic affairs committee, and executive review committee in omnibus? That means together and not as separate items? Okay, that's fine. Okay, there's no objection. We'll do them as omnibus. Is there any debate on the motion to postpone the accessibility committee, the academic affairs committee, and the executive review committee? Okay, those in favor of postponing those three committees to the next council meeting, please raise your hands. Those opposed, please raise your hands. Those three committees are postponed. New business, discussion item, health professions rep. You know you can just adjourn. Yeah, I was just say, why don't you just adjourn?
Oh, I would like to make an announcement.
Okay. Is there a seconder for the motion to postpone? Yes, it is moved and seconded to postpone the discussion item on health professions, on the health professions rep to the next council meeting. Is there any discussion on the motion to postpone? What's up? No, the meeting's not over. We haven't adjourned yet. Yeah. Okay, so no debate. Those in favor of postponing the health professions rep discussion to the next meeting, please raise your hands. Those opposed to postponing, please raise your hands. I have to keep going until 9 until someone motions to adjourn. Hey, look at that. Okay. Yeah. Everything after we adjourn will just be moved to the next meeting under unfinished business. Okay. What, do you have a question? Oh, seconded. Fantastic. Okay. Those in favor of adjourning this meeting, please raise your hands. Those opposed to adjourning, please raise your hands. The meeting is adjourned.